Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way to fantasy glory, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy excellence, fantasy championships, which are possibly just around the corner for some of you guys. I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself. And I'll bet a bunch of you that are watching this right now have got your actual season coming down to what's about to happen on the football field in an hour, which is pretty awesome. I got players going. It doesn't have anything. It's not going to affect my game at all. But I know there are some people that literally have their seasons on the line. And that's great. That's fantastic. That's what we're always looking for. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. What do you need to have happen tonight? Do you need someone not to score? Do you need someone to score? Do you need your kicker to have like an amazing game? We love all the scenarios. Wolf, how's it going?
Absolutely. Yeah. Those of you tuned in live, let us know what you need tonight. Or if you're catching us on the replay the day after, maybe you listen to the pod and you find us on YouTube, let us know what happened. How did it go for you? You needed 25 from Hopkins. Did you get it? I would love to hear what you need and how you're going to get there, whether you're live with us or what happened in the aftermath. Absolutely. Thankfully for myself, I do have a few players going tonight, but my team's fucking smashed. It was one of those weeks that just everything went right. It's been a while since I had one where I won in every single league, 7-7. But here we are, one of those types of weeks. I only lost in one league, and that was one of the leagues that I just had been getting my ass kicked all year. A horrible team. But other than that, it was just glorious. In my most important league, I was already in the playoffs. The only thing I had on the line was potentially being the high scorer of the week. Put up 184 in half PPR, like smaller rosters. Wow. Everybody had like 20 plus on my team. It was unbelievable. Capped the night off with like 60 points from Adams and Hopkins and Adams and Rogers stack. Just rolling in with some momentum. That always makes me nervous now. We were talking about last time where it's like, did I blow my load too early? Like I can't bring those points with me when everything's on the line. But also, is the locker room now just fired up, rolling in with some momentum? Let's steamroll, a little intimidation factor. I don't know, but I'm feeling fucking good. 184,
yeah.
Huge week.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I mean, I did end the year as my league's leading scorer, so I do get a payout. But I mean, I'm totally limping in. I know I texted you recently. I saw a TikTok where some guy was talking about like basically made a dream team of like the 8 worst possible people you could have drafted for this fantasy season, and was just like, don't complain about fantasy. You could have drafted these guys, and I have 4 of the 8 of them on my team. I was just like, brutal. yeah, it's brutal. And then on top of those guys, I got Eli Mitchell out. Now Tyler Higbee, who I didn't think I could possibly hate anymore. Well, now he's got COVID, so I do hate him a little bit more. Like it's just like I feel like I've never been bit like this in a season before. So I'm the 3 seed. I look at the teams in the playoffs, and there's maybe like one team I think I could beat. So I'm yeah, it's not good. I mean,
any given Sunday, man. Any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday, but none of my players are playing. Anyway, let's get into this stuff because I could complain about myself, just forever. So give us a like, give us a love, give us whatever you got. We're going to get into some Monday Night Football news, and there is a little bit. I just gave you a little bit of a spoiler. Tyler Higbee, he of like the 19th best tight end in the league, is on the COVID reserve list. Also, Jalen Ramsey, that's a little more significant. Fantasy-wise, obviously, don't really care, except unless you got some Cardinals, then you might care. Well, both those guys are on the COVID list. Obviously, they're not playing tonight.
Yeah, it's big. Not the Higbee absence, the Jalen Ramsey one, because him and Hopkins always battle it out. They always have great showdowns. I was looking forward to it as just a football fan. It's too bad, but as somebody who has Hopkins in 3 of my 7 leagues, I'm also pretty pumped that he's going to be running free tonight. Certainly doesn't hurt any of the secondary receivers as well. That trickle-down effect of now all the coverage shifts on that Ram secondary. That really is not great behind Jalen Ramsey. They've given up middle-of-the-pack points to wide receivers, and that's with Ramsey locking down a lot of their top options in the game. So this should really – Kyler Murray already was my number 2 quarterback behind only Josh Allen. This only gives him a better matchup for sure. Should go nuts tonight. It's really just now on the Rams. Are they going to be able to keep pace? Are they going to be able to put up points? Higbee's absence doesn't really matter. Like if you're desperate, if you were starting Higbee and you need the backup, I think his name is Kendall Blanton. Kendall Blanton. He have 2 catches on the season.
Just so you know, I'm taking the 0. Like yeah. I'm taking the 0. I'm down like 65. I have Higbee and Cooper Kupp. There's no one I really want to drop. So I'm just taking the 0.
Yeah, the only time that would work is if you can move one of Higbee into your COVID spot and open up something, your IR spot, whatever it is on your roster. Some leagues allow that, but it probably isn't worth it at this point unless you're in an absolute barn burner and you need just a couple points.
I'm not.
You want to take the Hail Mary on Kendall Blanton. I'm trying to think of if the Cardinals have anybody. I mean, they got Ertz, and then I don't even know who the next man up is behind him.
Right.
Urban,
this is my point. Thank you, by the way, Tyler Higbee, for the 10 minutes of warning that you gave me before catching COVID. So
exactly. Awful stuff.
I will never draft that guy again.
The only other note for tonight, and a player we did get some questions about, and thankfully recommended you sit it out because it really wasn't worth the upside whether he played or not, was Chase Edmonds. He is not activated, so James Conner wheels up. He's already been killing it, even with Edmonds in there, but just that much more upside with him out. And they're going to get another week of rest here. So if you were relying on Edmonds for any unforsaken reason, Eno Benjamin's the next man up there. So, not great. He of 5.8 carries, less than 1 catch in this last stretch of games since, Edmonds was out. So ultimately it's not like you're getting a huge replacement. Maybe you go to Becton, the backup running back for Michelle, and hope he plods his ass in the end zone. But man, hopefully we're not relying on Edmonds or Higbee because they weren't great bets either way. And certainly now you're in a very disgusting situation. Let us know, though, if you are in those situations, and we'll do our best to help you piece together something, or whether you have any sit starts that you now have to debate here. I know Sony Michel, a lot of people relying on him tonight. Let us know, again, what you need tonight, and we'll get into everything we need to go through.
All right, we're going to just real quick just bat some of these injuries back and forth. We're not going to go into these in depth because a lot of these players we're going to talk about just when we go down our traditional positional rankings, but we're just going to mention them. There were some significant injuries or definitely some things that you're going to want to keep an eye on going into the fantasy playoffs. Some big ones, possibly no bigger than Lamar Jackson, who had a second quarter ankle injury, had to be carted off to the locker room, did not return. The Browns ended up winning that game, and obviously Jackson's future is a little bit uncertain right now, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one. Another one also, the next guy is pretty big too, huh?
Yeah, Josh Allen, foot sprain, week 14, day-to-day. It seems like that one's not too serious. It does seem like Lamar Jackson, they already ruled out a high ankle sprain too, so that doesn't seem overly serious, but you might be looking at a 1 to 2 week absence for both of these guys, although Allen seems like he's almost a lock day-to-day again. Yep. Usually that's a pretty good sign you won't be without him. We'll talk about both those guys in more depth a little bit later, though.
Kareem Hunt went to the locker room late in the first quarter. He had an ankle injury. They pretty seamlessly subbed in D'Ernest Johnson for him. They have this luxury of having these 3 really good running backs. So I don't want to trivialize the fact that Hunt might be hurt, but from the Browns standpoint, it's like, we're cool. He came back to the sidelines. He did not get back into the game. Cleveland was sitting on a decent lead at that point. So we're going to have to wait and see how serious it really is.
Yeah, next man up mentality there for sure with that backfield. They have also said, though, probably unlikely to go at least this week because if they have the Saturday game. So D'Ernest Johnson right back on the radar, as you mentioned. Terry McLaurin is suffered a concussion while fighting for a big contested catch on the sideline. I don't even think he had a catch up to that point, so he was already kind of a sketchy play. And now, of course, even sketchier should he be in. And then if he's out, who's the next man up? Is it DeAndre Carter? Is it Cam Sims, who had a great contested catch in the end zone? I don't know, and I probably wouldn't want any of them moving forward anyways.
This is probably one that is sketching some people out. Austin Echoler, left ankle injury late in the third quarter. He did walk off off the field on his own, but he did not return to the game. They had a 3-score lead at the time, and they're playing again on Thursday. Now, people that are relying on Austin Echoler for a Thursday game in your fantasy playoffs, that's probably a little bit scary to you. Obviously, the guys behind him, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, are not 30% of what Echoler is. So keep your fingers crossed.
Close. Exactly. Staley did, for what it's worth, say if we needed him, he probably could have returned to the game. So that gives you a little bit of confidence boost here that they'll have him out there for a big divisional matchup. Someone who also did not return is Emmanuel Sanders, and they're already saying he is likely out for week 15 against the Panthers, potentially opening up a guy we'll talk about in a little bit, Gabriel Davis. Would very intrigued to see what he could do in a featured role this week.
All right. If you're a Dolphins running back stand, they've all tested positive for COVID. So Philip Lindsay just tested positive. I know Gaskin already had it, and I forget who the third guy is, but he has it too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got it too. Anyway, maybe it's Duke Johnson time. We'll see.
And it's against the Jets, so it's like not obsolete given how bad they are against the running backs, it's something you do have to pay attention to. Gio Bernard is expected to miss some time with a hip and MCL injury. It already was the Leonard Fournette show as a pass catcher, so this is minimally impacting anybody. But just to note that Fournette's that much more locked in moving forward.
All right, Mike McCarthy. I love when Mike McCarthy gets brought into the show. Mike McCarthy says he's feeling a lot better about running back Tony Pollard's foot and his ability to play again Week 15 against the Giants. Okay, I'm glad to hear it, Mike.
Another running back expected to potentially be back out there is Michael Carter, coming off the IR potentially against the Dolphins. He was great over a span, but that was also with Mike White peppering him in. So he should be rostered, no doubt about it, but I don't know that I want to toss him right back into the fire this week.
Last but not least, Elijah Moore, dealing with a quad injury. He was on the IR. He is going to be coming back for the team's final 2 games of the year. So the one productive fantasy player.
Right. And one of those would only be in your fantasy championship. So is he really worth holding on to for next 2 weeks and hoping you still make it? And then he's in there. Do you really trust him? That's a tough call for you owners out there. But if you got an IR spot and you got no one else in there, the guy is the number 1 scoring wide receiver over the last 8 weeks. So, I mean, probably worth holding on to. And that's all the injury. We'll, of course, dive into a little bit more how they impact and inform my rest of season rankings and some of the key usage and stats we ended up seeing this past week. Should we just dive right into quarterbacks?
I do want to dive in, but right before we dive in, I want to ask you a question about a quarterback that saw some action this week, okay?
Yeah.
Did you know who this guy Huntley was before you saw him on the field?
Well, only because this isn't his first time out there. He played one other game. I did not know him entering the season at all.
Okay.
It used to be like McSorley, I think, was the backup for a while. That I actually used to really like McSorley. But no, I didn't know a thing about Huntley until this game. He didn't do horrible though. 270.
No, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't terrible. I know that Lamar had missed another game this year, but I guess I had missed who subbed in for him. So this is the first time I'd ever seen this guy. And it's pretty rare that I see a quarterback on the field and I have absolutely no idea who they are, but that happened. Anyway.
Yeah, so I only knew him because of the one other week he played. But yeah, 270 and 45 on the ground too. He actually is pretty mobile. Not Lamar mobile, but if Lamar ends up being out, I guess that's the first guy we're going to talk about. So why don't we just dig right in? Lamar, the ankle injury. So it's going to be pretty serious. So we did want to talk about Huntley. The fact that he could be a potential fantasy starter in your playoffs is crazy, but not if you're desperate. You could do worse than 270 passing, 45 on the ground after in only about 3/4 of action. That's not bad for Huntley. So something to potentially consider if he's out, especially with this defense also looking horrendous, and I'm going to need chasing points the rest of the year. Huntley could be intriguing down the stretch.
All right, let's get into it. We talked about Josh Allen earlier. This guy had a monster fantasy game. Take it from me. He played against me this week. Because everybody who has a great fantasy game always plays against me. 36 out of 54 for 308, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He also had a ton of rushing yards. He had 12 carries for 109. That's serious Konami upside, as the Wolf likes to say. In my league, he put up at least 40, and the guy playing me didn't even need it. He could have put up 0, and he still would have beat me. But what a game. What
monster.
A game.
Absolutely monster effort after that dud against the Pats. You love to see that rebound as you gear up in an easy playoff schedule for these guys too. Whew. Last year he led people to titles, and it could happen yet again. Taysom Hill, speaking of Konami upside,
the starter on my team this week. I started him.
You had a monster. Yeah, I told you your quarterback throws for 175 in fantasy with no touchdowns in the air. You're probably like, damn, I lost. Nope, he put up over 26 fantasy points because he also had 73 yards and 2 scores on the ground. He's now averaging a rushing touchdown per game across his 6 starts. Just an absolute beast. The definition of set and forget, like close your eyes, don't look, because it was bad. I think through the half, he had 4 points. It was just like, ew, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then ends the game with a 70-yard rushing touchdown. It's like, yep, this is why I love you, Taysom Hill.
Russell Wilson, 17 out of 28 for 260, 2 touchdowns. The Seahawks did win in Week 14 over the Texans, and everyone's like, oh, the Seahawks are back. The Texans are absolutely terrible. Take away this one 75-yard touchdown that he threw to Tyler Lockett, who also I was facing, by the way. And it's just like a completely crappy game. Wilson has not impressed me in a really long time. He did enough to beat the Texans. I'll give him a hearty handshake for that, but that's it.
I know, but it's one of those things where we keep doing this with Wilson. Like, well, you take away the garbage time drive, and he would have only had 10 points, but he finished with 20. And then you take away the bomb, and he would, you know what I mean? It's like, well, we got to do the same for Taysom Hill if we're going to play that game. And
I'll gladly do that for Taysom Hill. He played a shitty game.
It was bad. It was ugly. But ultimately, points are points, and Wilson's got it done on these big plays. That's kind of always how he's been throughout his career. That those deep bombs to Lockett, so beautiful to see. He has had back-to-back top 12 QB games. Not a bad schedule moving forward. So I think he's approaching the trust nest again, the trust tree. We might be able to play Russell Wilson in future weeks, at least when the matchup's right. I did want to mention Justin Fields, who does look better and better each time out. Yeah, he had 2 bad picks. I know. It's not like I'm saying this guy's an elite quarterback, but fantasy-wise, he's had 18 plus in 3 of his last 3 straight games that he's made it all the way through. He's averaged now from the beginning of the year, 4.6 rush attempts and 21 rushing yards per game. That has now leaped up across these last 3 full games, 9 rushing attempts and 74 rush yards. That's why he's rising up in terms of fantasy QB upside. This was a good Packers defense, and he did pretty serviceable numbers. So if you lost Lamar and you need a potential fill-in, he's 19% rostered right now. You could do worse. I'd be nervous for sure putting my fantasy hopes on this guy, but like I'd rather have him than the next guy we're about to talk about on this list.
Who, Cam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, man, Justin Fields does not fill me with any sort of sense of confidence at all. But let's talk about Cam Newton. The Panthers head coach Matt Rule has said Sam Darnold could be a factor down the stretch when he returns from a shoulder injury. So you could conceivably have an absolutely terrible quarterback coming in to take some of the burden off the absolutely terrible quarterback that you currently have playing. So you Panthers fans, you got that to look forward to.
It was what an abysmal game. PJ Walker mixing in, and now you got a platoon, and maybe they make it a 3-man platoon. Who knows what these guys are doing? It looked like Cam was gonna that first touchdown run. It's like, oh man, Cam's back. He's gonna have himself a monster day, and then he just did nothing. Looked absolutely atrocious the rest of the way out there. So yeah, pretty concerning indeed. Another bad effort from Dak Prescott. 236 yards and a touchdown to pick. Very, very blah. Mediocre performance against a team that had been giving up the 3rd most points to quarterbacks. Not what you want to see from this guy heading into the fantasy playoffs. It's been back-to-back bad outings. I'd be nervous about Dak lately right now.
Yeah, you remember 8 weeks ago or whatever when people are like, I don't know, there might not be any better quarterback in the NFL than Dak Prescott. It's like,
quite.
Not really. All right, give us a like before we get into running backs. We could really use them. Share us, tell your friends about us, unless you're playing them this week, in which case keep it to yourself. Running backs, Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin Cook, if you recall when we were talking, which seems like forever ago on Thursday, I mean, the big subject of conversation is, should you play Dalvin Cook? Should you play Dalvin Cook? Now, to our credit, we absolutely said, yes, you should play Dalvin Cook.
100%.
And we were absolutely correct. He had 200 plus yards in this game, and he had a couple touchdowns. And I mean, I don't know about you. I don't remember his exact stat line. I know he scored 1 million points, but he just looked way faster than everybody else on the field. Like the first time I saw him run, I was like, oh wow, he's just way faster than everybody else. And it seemed like that for the rest of the game. I know he had a shoulder injury. He seemed like he was putting his shoulder down into people like a boss. Didn't seem like he cared.
It was an unreal effort. It was the best he's looked. I have him on my team, so I watch him very closely. That's the best he's looked all year now. Part of that's probably a pathetic Pittsburgh defense that completely quit before they even got off the bus. But even still, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, over 35 fantasy points, 77% of the snaps. And now Alex Madison has COVID too. So, I mean, this is just going to be, as long as he holds up, and it is, the risk of re-aggravation is certainly higher here down the stretch. But harness Dalvin Cook, baby. He has now scored 2 touchdowns in both games he's worn a harness. He averages on pace for nearly 3,000 total yards if you just average out his harness games. I know it's only a 2-game sample size here, but I love harness Dalvin Cook, and I want to ride that to a title this year, baby. Oh, and then Alvin Kamara. Speaking about studs returning, this is kind of the theme here. 27 carries, 120, a touchdown with 7 avoided tackles. Also had 4 catches and 25, and that might be the more intriguing part because it's always Taysom Hill can't throw to him. Well, he was the leading target with 5 on the team right here. Didn't do a whole ton of damage with just 25 yards, but he looked every bit as good as he has. 27 carries, a career high as well. So right back to the fire. There was no Mark Ingram. There was no Montgomery to muddy anything up. But still, how do you give anybody else work when he is this damn good? Love Kamara. Love him down the stretch here.
Saquon Barkley, this guy is frustrating beyond belief because he's playing for the Giants. The Giants are terrible. He doesn't produce much at all, but you get to see once, maybe twice a game. You're like, oh, yeah, that guy's really, really good. He had 16 carries, 64 yards, 3 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. So overall, it was not a terrible fantasy day. It was not an amazing fantasy day either. His talent is beyond reproach. You won't ever hear me say anything about like, oh, he's not that good. But, man, his situation's tough.
I know. And he only played 38 snaps, 55%. That's not great. So it's like one of those, is a rise or a fall? What is it with him this week? I don't know what to label it because he should have been in there every time. I don't know what's going there. But, yeah, it's gross. I don't feel great about him moving forward despite the solid game here. That was an easy matchup, and he didn't do all that much damage with it. Like, it was just solid plays, a handful of them. I don't know. I'd be nervous about Barkley moving forward. Leonard Fournette, though, rock solid. I'd have him in rankings way ahead of Saquon Barkley. I think most people would at this point. 19 carries, 113 yards, 85 of those coming after contact. Just a bull. Touchdown, 4 catches, and 19 receiving yards as well. And as we mentioned, Gio Bernard getting dinged up somehow. I don't even know when he was on the field, but whatever he was, he got hurt with an MCL and hip injury. So Leonard Fournette is just locked in to this workhorse role in one of the most explosive offenses in the league. I don't know how we were so low on this guy coming into the year. He is by far the best, round 10 and beyond running back you could have picked. Unbelievable value.
No question. Denver, running back by committee. But this is an example where both guys blew up. Gordon, 24 carries, 111 yards for 2 touchdowns. That's a great fantasy game. Javonte Williams, 15 carries, 73 yards, another touchdown. Also a catch for 10 yards that produced another touchdown. So 4 touchdowns between those 2 guys. I guess if you own either one of them, you're okay with that. It seems unlikely that they're going to be able to do that against teams that aren't Detroit. Exactly. But still.
It just goes to show how bad this Detroit defense is. It is just also a little bit obnoxious that Javonte had that huge 30-point day and his repayment. Yes, he had a huge day in fantasy, got over 21 fantasy points, but he got only 38.5% of the rushing workload. Did see all of the running back receiving work with 8% target share, but Melvin Gordon getting nearly 62% of the carries, his first game back from injury. That's pretty annoying. Come on. Like, get rid of this motherfucker. How good could this? Imagine if Gordon wasn't there. Do you think Javonte would have scored 4 touchdowns? Maybe.
Javonte looked really good.
He's so good.
I mean, he just is very talented. You can see it. I mean, Melvin Gordon looked that way 6 years ago. But
Gordon, to his credit, though, he's also looking pretty like
Javonte seems like he does the eye test better for me right now. Just possibly I'm biased, but I mean, Gordon's a good NFL running back. Javonte seems like a special next level.
Yeah, he could be Jonathan Taylor level with the right usage and volume. Honestly, that might seem that's the GOAT right now. So I know that's a little bit hyperbolic, but honestly,
he's really good though.
He really looks like that level of back. Just a bull every time he gets the ball. I love him. I fucking love him so much. Rashaad Penny, though, another monster day out of nowhere. 16 carries, 137, 2 TDs, 7.1 yards after contact per carry. He was churning. He broke a tackle, and you saw the speed that made him the first-round pick for these guys. Only had 1 catch and 1 yard, but dominated with 35 snaps compared to just 14 for Collins and 11 for DJ Dallas. Had far more work with, I believe it was 17 touches compared to just 8 for Collins, just like separating more and more. So 64% of the total running back routes and rushes as well. Very solid day usage-wise, even better performance-wise. Could be that every year there's that crazy blow-up player that just right before the waivers, you get them right before your playoffs and they go nuts. This could be a precursor to that. They certainly are invested in draft capital-wise. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. Let's see what this guy has. I can imagine they'll ride him down the stretch, and then not bad at the schedule. He could blow up. He could really blow up down the stretch here.
Who are you taking first next year? Javonte Williams or Eli Mitchell?
Javonte Williams. I mean,
really?
Melvin Gordon's expected to be a free agent. I'll be taking Javonte Williams. If Gordon's gone and they don't sign anybody too crazy, I would take him probably top 8. Maybe top 6. I love him. And Mitchell would be a fringe first rounder too, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think Mitchell would be too much below that.
No, it's more so Williams is just he's just built like a truck. He's like Taylor. I don't think he's ever going to get hurt. Whereas Mitchell, we've already seen he's a smaller guy, a little frail. He gets hurt. He's tough as he is.
So tough though.
So tough. Such a tough little prick. But I feel like Davonte is just one of those guys that will never knock on wood.
I know. Don't be careful there.
The way he's built is just a different level.
All right, James Robinson. He was benched in week 13. Trevor Lawrence complained about it. But he did come back as the team starter. He gained 4 yards on 6 carries. Man, that's not a real confidence booster. Now, he does have 2 very juicy matchups coming up, but I mean, he's, like if he's going to run like that, it doesn't really matter who he's rushing against. He's got Texans and the Jets coming up next.
It might be the only team where the doesn't get great game scripted out of here, given those two opponents. If there's any hope for him at all, I think we're far beyond the trade deadline in most leagues, so it's not like you buy low at this point. But it's going to be hard to put him on the bench despite 0.4 PPR fantasy points. He was in there on 85% of the running back rushes and routes. So, I mean, he was the only guy, but it clearly didn't amount to anything given how absolutely abysmal. I mean, who do you think do you think the Jags are the worst team in the NFL? They probably are, right, at this point?
It's funny. My daughter asked me yesterday, who's the worst team in the NFL? And I had to actually stop and think for a second. And I said, it's the Lions, the Texans, or the Jags, and then maybe the Jets are in there. It's those 4 are the 4 worst teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, gun to my head, I think the Jags are probably the worst. Although, it's hard to argue for the Lions,
Exactly. I think the Jags might have more talent than some of those temes they're listed on. Not that they have a ton of it. They really don't.
Yeah, but Urban Meyer's such a fuckhead.
Exactly. The worst coach in a long time, too. He is just abysmal. But let's carry forward. I don't want to puke on the show. Joe Mixon, he was a monster for so long. 2+ touchdowns in 4 straight games, a 9-game touchdown streak. It did come to an end, sadly, with a very mediocre day on Sunday. But the bigger concern is the fact that he is now ceding receiving work to Samaje Perine, who's out-targeted Mixon 11-7 during that span. His target share is 0, 16.7. That was solid, but then 2.6 and 5.9 across his last 4 games. That's concerning usage for sure for a guy that just put up about 6 to 7 fantasy points, depending on your scoring settings this last week. You don't want to see that during your stretch runs. Hopefully you can get back to workhorse Mixon role, but that was a game where it was competitive the whole time. It wasn't like they should be resting him for any reason other than maybe they just like Samaje Perine in passing situations a little bit more. So concerning for sure moving forward.
Nick Chubb, he's been really bad. Now, of course, he's doing it without Kareem Hunt, which should benefit him. He's actually single-digit fantasy numbers 3 of the last 5 weeks. Has not been impressing anybody. Traditionally, when Hunt has been out and he's been sharing work with D'Ernest Johnson, he still gets the lion's share of the work. D'Ernest Johnson has really shined when no one else has been there. So I don't see him as a threat necessarily to Chubb, although Chubb's production has not been anything to get too excited about lately.
No, like you said, 3 of the last 5 single digits. That really speaks the story. But I do think without Hunt, he has seen a decent uptick in that receiving work, as you alluded to, and that's been huge. I know it's just 1.7 targets. That doesn't seem big, but Chubb does damage every time he gets used in the receiving game. I don't know why he doesn't get more, to be honest. So that'll be big for sure. Antonio Gibson, absolute dud of a day. And we called it that. That was our lower on the show. Granted, on the Sunday show, once McKissick was ruled out, I was like, it's going to be really tough to do.
You flirted. That was the one time that you flirted with not playing Dalvin Cook. Was Antonio Gibson and James Conner were the other 2 choices, and you were like, maybe bench Cook here, and I said no, don't get cute.
No, and then once we saw he had a full workload, we were both like, no, lock him in. Cook was my number 4 or 5 running back. I was like,
you went with Cook 39 out of the other out of 40 times. So I'm not hating on you for that. You were right.
No, it was great. But yeah, ultimately, just a dud game, and he saw 55.6% of the running back rushes even without McKissick there. That's the biggest concern. It's like, who else is in there? Why? He did fumble, and that was probably part of it. He was getting stuffed time and time again, though, as well. Just after 3 of his last 4 being 20-pointers, this was pretty concerning to see a 5-point effort. I mean, again, similar to Mixon, just not what you want to be seeing heading into the it's kind of a theme here. We're seeing Kamara and Cook rolling right into the playoffs, and then we're seeing some studs kind of haltering out. So hopefully they get their ground back, but not what you want to see by any means.
Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, he had a really interesting, split this game, where he saw actually a season high as far as target share. It was 13 or 14%. And then he had a season low 45.5% running share. He did punch the ball in a couple times. Also, interestingly enough, for the Chiefs, there seems to be enough kind of table scraps left over for Darrell Williams to still be a viable play, which is good for me because I needed him. Didn't really help me, but he had like a 13-point fantasy game too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just crazy to see the Chiefs put up how many they have? 48 points
48
this last week.
And I think they've given up, I think 9 like the last 3 games or something like that.
Yeah, they haven't given up more than 17 in like 8 straight or something like that. I know that for sure. It's just crazy to see them put up that type of production and Kelsey to have 27 yards, Tyreek Hill to have like 70 scoreless mediocre. If I told you those two were having those stats, you'd probably like, oh yeah, the Chiefs got smoked and Mahomes had a horrible day. But not at all. Mahomes rebounded big. He had, I think, a nice 20 or so fantasy points. And then the running backs, though, as you said, Darrell Williams and Hilaire, both getting there in fantasy leagues. It ultimately ended up being 37 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then 5 yards for the air. So not a ton of production. They just didn't need them because they were just smoking this team so much. But Hilaire definitely trending upwards as we hit your playoffs. Packers running backs. I mean, kind of similar to Clyde's day. Aaron Jones did find the end zone twice, so he got there for you in your fantasy teams. And he ended up hitting about 18 fantasy points. But when you look at the workload split, 5 carries, 3 targets on 19 routes. Dylan saw 15 carries, 0 targets, so he kind of disappeared in the receiving game, but he also ran 13 routes. This was a near even, dare I say, favoring Dylan type of workload split. Dylan was getting a lot of the mop up, like fourth quarter duty cleanup stuff. So in a tighter game, it might be more of an Aaron Jones situation. But this is a committee in every sense of the world. As talented as both of these guys are, split workload is a split workload, especially when Rodgers is throwing for 4 touchdowns. It's if he's just going to cook like that, there's not going to be a whole ton for these running backs unless they're on the receiving end of them, like Jones was in last game. But you can't bank on that every time. So definitely a concern moving forward with these Packers backs.
So you're breaking up a lot on mine, which means I'm probably breaking up a lot on yours. Why don't you kick me out and let me back in, and you do the next one?
All righty. Nope.
Well, give me everything.
So, and hopefully let me know, Wolfpack, for that Packers one, if I broke up a lot on you, let me know. I'm happy to restate that. Apologize if we are having some technical Wi-Fi difficulties over here. I got off all the Wi-Fi on every other device, but if that's coming through bad, please keep me posted in the comments. I will look out for that. Nat will look out for that while we're letting this thing kind of reload or whatever. But the Titans backfield, solid day for Foreman Hilliard. Definitely disappeared, though. So Foreman got there with over 20 fantasy points, depending on your scoring settings. He was the feature every down back, looking like a bull, caught a bunch of balls. Hilliard disappeared for just a couple touches. McNichols kind of ate at his workload, was the third down back. So almost all of McNichols' touches, though, came in the fourth quarter when they had a big 3-score lead. It was really the Foreman's show, though. So moving forward, I think he is the clear-cut guy. We talked about this on our Thursday preview show. He was the one, if I had to pick one, I wanted moving forward, and that's what it looks like it's going to pan out to be. So moving forward, definitely intrigued by Foreman much more than any of the other running backs there. Let me see if we can get our man back here.
All right, I'm back. All right, let's talk about the Panthers backfield. Chuba Hubbard, Amir Abdullah. It's pretty much gone the way we expected it to. Chuba Hubbard is getting more of the rushing work. Abdullah getting more of the receiving work. Hubbard had the better fantasy game this week. He did punch it into the end zone. Possibly that was because they were able to just keep the game close a lot of the time, which Carolina has not tipped. Carolina's really bad too. Let's be honest. That's a really bad team. They're maybe a little above those 4 that I said before, but that's a really bad one. They do have the Bills, the Bucks, and the Saints coming up, which is not a great schedule for them. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I that's why, as good as Chuba was, and we called that saying this is the week to play him with those tough matchups, especially the matchups they're likely going to be trailing. I don't think there's any way we get another. How many carries did he end up having this last week? Only 10. That's actually not nearly as many as I thought. 10 for 33 without a target in the passing game. Just not that good of a day. And now these tough matchups are coming. I think Abdullah, certainly the not even better play. Just avoid this team. You don't want any Panthers. Maybe DJ Moore at best at this point. Craig Reynolds, though, Adam Schefter's boy, he tweeted out this is going to be the next Elijah Mitchell. He saw 11 carries and looked really good with 83 yards. He was a preseason darling, and he had the most running back rushes and targets for anybody on Detroit, which, again, was it Godwin and Igwabuke? Was it going to be Jamar Jefferson? No, it was Craig Reynolds, who did the most damage here. And yeah, Jamal Williams, he was on the COVID list. I imagine he'll be back this week, assuming he's vaccinated. But if not, Craig Reynolds could be the priority pickup. And they have Atlanta in the championship game. They have a joke matchup this week. I forget who it is off the top of my head. But 2 of the next 3 games, definitely very viable spots for Detroit backs. They all are also saying that they expect DeAndre Swift to be back this week, in which case none of them matter other than DeAndre Swift.
Hey, you know who sucks? Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, oh yeah, he does.
He got all their running back work, by the way. 13 rushes, 56 yards, didn't do anything. Niners did end up winning that game. It was kind of a must-win for them, as a matter of fact. But Wilson's not doing anything to impress anybody, I don't think.
No, not at all. Deebo Samuel, the monster that he is, saw nearly 50% of the workload. Because as we said, Wilson got all the running back carries. No worries about Tasty, Hasty, or anything that. But it's Deebo Samuel. That's the monster there, scoring a 27-yard rushing touchdown. He is so damn good. They should use him like Alvin Kamara. I say that every single time. Alrighty, folks, that's all we got for running back notes. Let us know if there's anybody you would also toss on there. We'll whip through our receivers because, again, I know there's some of you guys that might actually have some actionable questions that you need to get to tonight. So we will do our best to get through these quickly, including the god himself, Hunter Renfrow, punching tickets to fantasy playoffs. 13 catches, 14 targets, 117 and a TD. He's so good. He is so shifty. He gets so open at will. It's unbelievable.
Well, this is a game where his team put up pretty much 0 offense. They scored 9 points. Derek Carr threw for like 230 yards or something. And this guy's got 13 catches for $117. That's a great fantasy game. And it's like, he accounted for like 60% of his team's offense or something like that. I don't know. That's amazing.
Exactly. And this isn't like new. I mean, the 28 points at the most he's had on the season, but over his last 6, 17.9, 17.6, 7.5 was his worst game. I mean, not good, but still like, okay. 21.6, 19.2, and 28.7. Unbelievable. I imagine he's like a number 2 or 3 receiver in that span, like compared to the rest of the league. Only maybe Adams and a couple others who have had these monster days might compare to that. Unbelievable.
Speaking of Adams, 10 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, 41% slot rate on his routes, which when he runs in the slot, man, like it's almost not fair. But anyway, Cooper Kupp's going to end up with the most fantasy points over the course of this season. But Davonte Adams, who was the Wolves' smash #1 receiver, I mean, you completely see why. Like, I don't know where he's going to finish, 2, 3, something like that. But it's almost like a game like this from him is just kind of ho-hum. When I see Cooper Kupp put up numbers like this, I'm still like, oh, wow. I'm still kind of blown away. When Adams does it, I'm just like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, duh. Exactly, right? Of course. But no, absolute monster. He always is like number 1 or 2 each and every week in the rankings. But this is the type of thing, like, who would you rather have for the rest of the season? I'd probably pick Adams at this point.
You talking about real football or fantasy?
Fantasy-wise. It's close. It's tough.
It's tough. I don't know. If you picked Adams, I wouldn't say you were crazy at all.
No, not at all. And honestly, Tyler Lockett's looking like he could be a top 10 receiver moving forward each and every week. He's
not DK, though.
No, not DK. We'll talk about both those guys. 5 catches, 142, and a touchdown for Tyler Lockett, averaging nearly 26 yards, average depth of target. Beautiful stuff for him. He's now had since all this Russell Wilson sucks type of narrative. Well, even with Wilson sucking, he's had double digits in all those 4 games. Most of them, he's been a top 20 wide receiver, if not top 10. He's looking like a locked-in smash play each and every week, whereas DK has averaged in that same span 6.9 PPR points per game.
That's insane.
Awful, awful, awful.
He's DK Metcalf. What the hell's going on?
I put him on the bench. It's either the foot, it's the sinner narrative where Russell
Wilson. The porn. Don't you think it's the porn?
Yeah, it really could be. I think it's the sinner. Exactly. So Russell Wilson just excommunicating him. And to the benefit of Tyler Lockett, DK is – I put him on benches, honestly, moving forward.
Oh, I definitely would too. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but absolutely. Jamar Chase, he had a bit of a, kind of comeback game. He had been up and down. He's been an up and down guy most of the season, but he did have 5 catches for 77 and 2 touchdowns. And this is another situation where we see guys that are competing for catches, competing for, fantasy points. I'm talking about T. Higgins when I put him with Jamar Chase. They're both able to eat. in this offense and have good games. Higgins, I think, had 17 or 18 fantasy points as well. Chase had the real blow-up game this week, put up 24, 25 fantasy points himself.
Monster. And yeah, exactly. You can have both in your lineup. I have them both in the league, and I start them both. And usually that works out for me these last few weeks. Rashaad Bateman, right after one of our grind stoppers here. He always looks great. That's the most frustrating part about him. Of course, after I cut him, he goes and sees a season high 20% of targets there, 17.3 PPR points. Wow, shocking. You use the guy, and he goes and fucking produces for you. 7 catches, 103 yards. Just a monster. Like, he is so damn talented. He, in any offense where he could be like the number one with a decent quarterback, he would be going bananas each and every week. They just don't throw it enough there in Baltimore. But this is just the type of performances like to come down the road. I think this guy will be one of the best receivers in the next couple of years.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't stand this guy, and I'm going to tell you why. He had this big streak of targets earlier in the year. Oh, he's getting 8 targets a game, 7 targets a game, blah, blah. You can't ignore it. This was like 5 weeks ago or something. And I finally got to a point where I needed to stream a receiver because of buys. And I'm like, all right, you know what? This guy's got a little bit of a pedigree, a little bit of a track record at this point. So I bring him in. And I want to say he had 0 catches on 0 targets, but maybe it was like on 1 target or something. So obviously I was furious. So of course I dropped him immediately. And he's been pretty much doing this same thing since then. He basically had 1 week that was terrible. It was the week I picked him up. But he's now had back-to-back weeks with 12 targets. And you can't ignore that, even if it's the Lions, even if it's Jared Goff. 12 targets is 12 targets.
Exactly. Honestly, it might even help that it's the Lions because they just have to throw in comeback mode all the time. Now, there was no TJ Hawkinson. There was no DeAndre Swift. So we have to keep that in mind. But I do think, double-digit targets week to week at this point is very well within his realm of possibility. He turned it into 8 for 73. Not quite the 86 yards and touchdown he had a week before, but still solid nonetheless with 31% target share. And that all came against a good Denver defense, that type of production. I think you can, if you're desperate for a plug-in wide receiver 3, you couldn't do much better at this point on your waiver wires. Other than maybe for this week at least, Gabriel Davis, given that Manny Sanders is going to be out with a knee injury at least this week, potentially even to the IR, we saw Davis then come on in and run a route on 81% of dropbacks. Ultimately saw 8 targets, caught 5 of those 8 for 43 and a touchdown. That amounts to a season-high 15.7% target share. If Sanders misses time, we already talked about the joke schedule for Josh Allen. Davis, anytime he's called upon, dating back to rookie year, I think he had 10 touchdowns last year. He's just a playmaker, and Allen loves him in the red zone, and Davis would see a big bump up should Sanders be gone, and he runs another route on 81% of the targets. Love that. Love that route.
Speaking of target share, Donovan Peoples-Jones saw his top target share of the season in that weird Browns and Ravens game that Jackson got taken out on a cart. 23.3% target share. That's not nothing. And he was actually targeted 7 times by Baker Mayfield. I got to be honest, Wolf, when I see Mayfield play, he just doesn't look good to me.
No.
Like, he just doesn't look like a good football player. Like his arm, he doesn't have like a cannon. I don't know. It freaks me every time he throws the ball. I'm like, oh, that's going to get picked off. But he was going to Peoples-Jones early and often.
Yeah, exactly. 5 for 90 was the ultimate stat line there. Solid day for a guy that was typically thought of as a only deep threat, but he was the playmaker of the preseason. The hype train was behind him the whole way, and he's starting to get it done. He's starting to show that. I think he could be a potential viable wide receiver 3 against a Raiders team that is averaging almost 30 points surrendered over their last 5 games. Like they're nowhere on defense. So I could see Peoples-Jones being that Hail Mary you need in your playoff week. You could do worse than him. You certainly could do worse than him. And last but not least, last maybe least, Robbie Anderson, 7 catches, 84 and a TD. That was a great game. He's out there on a ton of waiver wires. But could you really, truly put your faith in this guy moving forward? I certainly wouldn't. But yeah, no. Let's move on. No, don't put your faith in him. That's fool's gold. I would be terrified. And I hate that. It's like the Jeff Wilson syndrome. This guy 2 years ago was winning me titles when he just went berserk in the fantasy playoffs. So I'm like, I think I want to pick him up. I don't know if I want to start him, but I don't want to be facing him either, if that makes any sense. Like,
no, it makes sense.
He went nuts a few years ago, and maybe it's just Robbie Anderson, late season baller. Like, that just happens with players. That could be him this year. If this week was any indication, 34.3% threat rate, he could do some damage down the stretch here.
We got 3 tight ends to talk about, and that's it. 2 of them who had amazing games, and one of them who just kind of laid a turd sandwich. Mark Andrews, 11 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown. Among those 11 catches, 7 of them went for first downs. That is a monster tight end game. And Andrews looked really good, and a lot of that did not come from Lamar. A lot of that came from Huntley, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah, very solid performance. Just a reminder of how damn good this guy is each and every week. But the only guy at this point you might have above him, George Kittle. Holy hell. 13 catches.
This is the guy, right? This is the number 1 tight end now, right?
Yep. Especially when you get into the next guy below him, too. 13 catches, 151 and a TD. Just looking like a monster all over the field. Some of the most difficult contested catches, running after the catch. This guy is unstoppable. He's now scored 39 and 34 PPR points in his last 2 games, 40% and 40.5% target share in his last 2 games. Welcome back. And that was, I guess, the most impressive part of this one is there was no Deebo Samuel's back, and he still was this type of engine. I think a lot of people assuming, oh no, it's Deebo's absence. That's what led to it. Nope. Deebo's back, and we still see this game.
Kittle's always been like the straw that stirred the drink there. Like even as great as Deebo was, like you always just kind of thought that he was kind of the sun in the solar system offense or whatever. He's just amazing to watch when he's really clicking. Unlike Travis Kelce, who we've certainly seen do a bunch of awesome things, but he put up a second consecutive, I believe, unless I'm reading this wrong, 3 catches for 27 yards. And this is in a game that the Chiefs completely exploded in and had 48 points. Kelce did nothing.
And I told you, my team put up 184 this week. Kelce was my first rounder, so everybody else blew up. Imagine if I got a typical Kelce game, would have been over 200 points. It would have been nuts, not to be greedy or anything. But he gets a bad Chargers defense against the tight end on Thursday. If he can't get it done there, I'm going to be terrified. There were 2 tight end performances I did want to mention before we get in your mailbag that I didn't put on the sheet. One of them was Dawson Knox, especially given that Manny Sanders is out. We taught him on the higher list every single week, and he panned out. 7 of 9 targets. Love to see that 9 targets, right over 20% target share, 60 yards and a score, getting open in that red zone. Josh Allen loves him in the red zone. It's the first read, honestly. It seems like almost every time. So you got to keep this guy locked in as a top 5 tight end moving forward each and every week. And then Austin Hooper with the other guys out. He was our Hail Mary on Sunday. We talked about 5 of 7, 30 yards and a score. Not bad. I mean, he'll be, if those other guys are back, Bryant and Njoku, useless. But should those guys be out, and it's a Saturday game, so they might not make it back, it could be a great spot to let this guy go again against that Raiders team that is just abysmal right now.
All right, that's it. Let's hit the mailbag.
Let us do it. I just want to play our sexy animation.
That was sexy.
There we go. Welcome on in, folks.
All right, let's get into it. Craig Sarno. Sup, boys? 11-3, first place by most points scored. Let's fucking go. Good for
There's
you,
the
Craig.
wolf. There's a wolf right there, my man. Craig dominated his leagues last year, right back to where he left off. We fucking love to hear that, Craig. Good shit. Well done. And as we get into these questions, guys, that thumbs up button does help us get out to more people. It's so appreciated. And if you're new here and you haven't already subbed, I don't know if we're going to hit it now. I'm getting a little bummed out. I want to hit 2K so bad, but we only have the playoffs left here.
What are we like?
You guys come through. Yeah, I think we're about 50 away at this point. Come through, Wolfpack. Share us out to some people who are knocked out of your playoffs, or that can just help us get to that goal. We need to get to that 2K. I don't think we're going to get there. But I shouldn't underestimate the power of the pack, though. We'll see. But it'd be so appreciated if you're new here and you haven't already. Please consider giving us that sub and helping us achieve our big goals here of continuing to grow. Jeremiah Moore says, as long as Sony doesn't score 33 points, I'll make the playoffs in all 3 of my leagues. I think you're in good shape, buddy. I think you're in good shape. You could have a big day. I mean, I had a monster game last week and still didn't hit 33. That'd be berserk for Sony.
Seamus. Well, happy Monday to my 2 favorites. Thank you, Seamus. I'm flattered. The dance teacher will see everyone in the playoffs. Man, you punched your ticket to the playoffs like a month ago. Yeah. Good for you, though.
The season started and he already had his ticket. I think he's in first place in both of them. He was telling me like 11-2 or 11-3 and 10-4, and I'm double digits in both. I mean, just very impressive season overall from our man.
Jeremiah Moore. Would you rather have Miles Sanders or Kenneth Gainwell?
Such a gross backfield, but I still got to go with the guy who's the lead, and that's Sanders. As bad as it is, no touchdowns on 135 touches this year. That's just, how do you pull that off? I don't know. But He's due. If there's anything else, he's due. We've seen Gainwell just disappear into oblivion multiple times this year after having big games. I'd rather have Sanders by a pretty good stretch. What about you, Nat?
I would probably rather have Sanders. Not probably. I'd rather have Sanders.
Yeah.
Seamus says, I'm ready to continue dancing circles around these macho men. Seamus, the more macho they are, the harder they fall. And
absolutely. There's no one more macho than you just teaching them a lesson each and every year.
True.
Love it, Seamus.
It's true. Evan Harrison, I'm fighting for second place in another matchup. I need the guy in second to lose. He's down 55 with Connor, Murray, and OBJ. Does he win? 55, Connor, Murray, and OBJ.
Oh, man. Honestly, I really think Murray goes crazy tonight because there's no Jalen Ramsey. This comes down to how close do the Rams keep it. So if this is a shootout, that means OBJ is going off. That means Murray's answering, and Connor probably has his usual 2 touchdowns.
It's totally possible that OBJ does nothing. I mean,
exactly.
Gets 2 catches for 30. What do you think the final score of this game is going to be?
I think the Cardinals might roll. I would say 30 Cardinals, 21 to 24 Rams. What do you think?
I'm thinking 27-14 Cardinals.
Yeah. So we're both predicting the spread's only 2.5. I would be hammering.
I'd be smashing the card. I really would. I mean, look, there have been plenty of times I've been sure about something and been wrong, but I really like the Cardinals.
It seems like a no-brainer to me, though.
Yeah. Michael Schneider, I won in my 2 dynasty leagues, put up 205 in one of them, finally having a healthy full roster. I don't even know what that's like, Mike, but good, like having a healthy full roster. I'm going to look back at my team this year and be like, man, the 3 weeks that my team was healthy, it was like a juggernaut.
Yeah.
But that was all I got. So good for you, bud. Good for you.
I feel like I just kind of danced around yours, Evan, too. Like, I honestly don't think that I think he does win. So I hope he doesn't. It's not like this would probably be a coin flip. I just think the Cardinals are going to have a monster day. So ultimately, I think it's going to come down to OBJ. If he catches an early bomb, you're probably going to know this sucks. But you'll get a good feel for this one in the first couple quarters, I'd say.
All right. Falanini, I'm tied with my opponent. Winner goes to the dance. I have Stafford and OBJ. He has Matt Gay left. I'm feeling pretty well. You'd have to really, really get unlucky, bud.
Yeah, that would be bad. It would require some injuries for you not to win this one. Yeah.
Denny Jennings, last man in, thanks to Lamar.
You made it.
Right.
As long as you made it. Doesn't matter the style, the points. You're in. That's all that matters.
One Rock says, I have a bye and a chance to be in first place depending on another matchup tonight. I wanted to win the overall points, but it looks like I'm going to finish second. I wish I had started Rashaad Penny. Oof. Yeah, if you were close and you didn't start Penny, that might have cost you. I backed into my most points, One Rock, and I'm glad I got it because I don't think I'm going anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, damn. Wish you had it, but I guess you can be pumped that you have Rashad Penny moving forward too, because he's looking like he could be that stretch run miracle type of guy down the road.
Mike Schneider, I have Connor and Jefferson going tonight. My opponent has Ertz. I'm down 43 going in. I need a miracle. Yeah, things are really going to have to break your way. I mean, Who knows? With Van, you never know. But I like him.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, we've seen Connor have 30-point days in the past, so you're going to need something like that, and you're going to need Ertz to do nothing. Is it impossible? No. I'd give you a 15% chance at best. But 15% still not horrible. But yeah, that you'd have to have a lot penned right for you in this one, Mike.
One Rock, I told everyone I could pick up Rashad Penny over the weekend. Recommended starting him over the Lions backfield, for example. Well, if people listened to you, they probably really appreciated it.
I was looking for. Wait, why didn't you tell me that, One Rock? Were you here telling me that? I wish you didn't tell everyone you could. You could have told me. Nah, but good for you, man. Good foresight. We had a lot of people. I posted the stream of running backs. A lot of people commented on Rashad Penny. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's definitely a smarter play than some of these guys I'm recommending. So I got to shout out a couple of those guys. Frank Amarante on Twitter was hammering Rashad Penny, and bam, that really panned out. I wish me and you had talked a little bit more, One Rock, because damn, he killed it.
Eat Powder says, you think Taysom had himself on a fantasy team? What, you mean because of that last big run?
Last run, yeah, right.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Denny says, good evening, fellas. Playoffs, baby. Good job, Denny.
Hell yeah, Denny. Love to hear it, my man. Good shit. Every year you make it. Love it.
Mike Clay, down 20. I've got Cup and Gay. He has Rams D. Win locks up the bye for me. Let's go. If precedent means anything, you will definitely win this game.
Yeah, Cup should get you that, but no guarantees. But I'd say you're at 70% chance of getting that, I would say.
I give you better than 70. One rock. Demetrius Harris is the second Arizona tight end. Yeah, I'm not dropping anybody.
There you go. If you need
but thank you for the tip. I would not have gotten that.
No, I wouldn't either. If you're desperate, and I would probably go to him over Kendall Hinton or whatever the other. No, it's not Kendall Hinton. That's the Broncos receiver. I don't even know who it was. It's Kendall B something. I don't even know. Whatever.
DJ Johnson. Fuck Tyler Higbee. I hear you, DJ. I used him as a fill-in when Kittle was out, and he was a bigger disappointment to me than my parents. That's a bigger disappointment than me to my parents.
Oh, great stuff. I always love the comedy the Pack can bring.
I know. Bring it on. Jeremiah Moore. Kittle's the real MVP. He's carrying my team. Yeah, I mean, if he had been around the whole year doing this, who knows what we'd be saying about Kittle right now. But, man, he's amazing. He's as good as anyone right now.
Just got to keep it rolling for you, Jeremiah. He really is unbelievable here down the stretch.
Ben, what's up, distinguished gentleman? Down 11 with Kyler to go versus my opponent's Matt Gay. Chalk it up, buddy. You're gonna win.
I'd give you a nice 95% chance. Like you should take this one. Injury is the only way you don't.
Danny says Kelsey better wake up for the playoffs. Thank God I hung on to Knox. Yeah, that's a nice option to have.
Seriously, yeah. I've been rolling out Kelsey Knox lineups every week, and Knox is the one that's coming through for me. I'm not going to be benching Kelsey like you can't, but still. I think Kelsey's going to wake up at least for this Thursday night game coming up. The Chargers are bad against tight ends, so I have a good feeling about a big rebound. 20-point day coming this week, baby. Let's go.
Cody Hoxie. Gabriel Davis could be big down the stretch with Sanders.
Yeah, we talked about him. I really think he could be one of those. How about stretch run miracles? Him, Rashaad Penny, they're all definitely in question. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'd add to that list too.
Matthew Noto says, asking a question I asked last week because I'm still not that confident. Thoughts on Taysom for the playoffs? I don't have to worry about next week, but all I have behind Taysom is Cam and Tannehill. Ugh.
I mean, you just got to close your eyes, pinch your nose, and hope for the best. Like, it doesn't ever look good, but Taysom just gets it done. You know, Tampa Bay, not a great matchup because of the leg points is where you get it from Taysom, and that's obviously one of the best run Ds in the league. But if those are your other options, you got really no choice to. You got to just roll Taysom and hope for the best. That's how I feel about it, at least. I don't know if there's any, like, you wouldn't go Huntley over him. So, no, you're going Taysom. You're going Taysom. You're going Taysom.
Denny says he's afraid he might get COVID with Gaskin and Lindsey both on his roster. I hope you're following all the protocols, Denny.
Yep, exactly. Just keep those distance, wash those hands, definitely. Keep the masks on.
Eat Patter, 12-team league. No one will have a better record than 8-6. Still won my division at 7-7 by an overall season point total lead of 2.3.
Damn.
That's like my league wasn't that tight. We had one team that was elevated, but I think second was 8-6 in that league, and I finished tied for that. I got third with 8-6. A lot of parity. That's kind of fun when leagues work out that way. It's just a battle with everybody. In our league, there were like 8 teams fighting for their lives in the last week, which was pretty awesome. Yeah,
that's awesome, Eat Powder. And congrats on the win. Congrats on the takedown. Now it's time. Let's see. Very little parity heading into the playoffs. I'd love to see how this league plays out. With hopefully Eat Powder on the top of it all.
Yeah, pulling for you, man. One Rock says Huntley played against the Bears. Yeah, I just missed that game. I know he played another game.
Gotcha.
And he said he wasn't very good against the Bears, but definitely played well this weekend. He did, but I'm not going to say he was that good. I saw him do some pretty bad things, but I thought he held it down.
Yeah. I like to root for him too. He's just like the nicest sounding guy in the world. But again, I mean, I wouldn't play him over Taysom Hill, but there's going to be some teams desperate for QBs if they lost Lamar. You could do worse than the one-to-one replacement there, in my opinion.
Mitch, what's up with guys got hit with Hawk out, then Higbee with COVID? I have Connor, 33-point lead tonight against Stafford. I should be fine. Yeah, take first place in a bye with the W. Connor would have to get hurt, and then Stafford would have to go off in a way he hasn't gone off against the Cardinals in a long time. You're fine, bud.
Damn. Yeah, you're good, man. I love it, Mitch. You're a fucking legend. Like I was saying, damn, because I read the comment below because I just like this is par for the course. We know Mitch Chavez is in first with a bye. He's always killing it. Love that, Mitch. Congratulations, brother. Let's get those.
Kevin Rice, I scored 120 this week, second highest in the league. First highest, the guy I played against. Yeah, that I hear you. Guy I played against. Thank God Montgomery dropped that last 7-yard pass. Guy I needed to lose, lost by 1.5 onto the playoffs. Good
wow. That's unreal. Like it was horrible luck to be facing the number one scorer when you were the second, but then that drop propelled you to the playoffs. That's incredible.
Kevin, I'm assuming you're playing standard because the guy when I scored like $135, $140, and I still got Cup to play. The guy I played against has already put up 185, and he's got a kicker to go. So, man, I wish the guy I played against scored 120.
Yeah, it's probably either standard or shorter rosters for sure.
Yeah. Josh Allen has a sprained foot, something to watch for. All right.
Yeah, we talked about that. Definitely something to monitor, but day to day doesn't seem like it'll be big. I'm just pumped, Kevin. You made the playoffs, brother. I know you were texting all week. I'm so pumped you made it.
Jeremiah says Mitch should drop hockey's doo-doo.
Yeah, doo-doo indeed. Doo-doo indeed. No, he had two touchdowns in back-to-back games till he got hurt. I don't know that you got to drop him. I would probably hang on to him if Higbee's your other option.
One Rock says Russ is playing better. The finger injury is in the rear view. All right. We'll see.
That's what I was saying. Truth wants to deny it and come up with all these. If you take away this 80-yard bomb, well, that's what he's so fucking good at is those 80-yard bombs to Lockett. It's like saying.
Do you think when you see Wilson, do you think he looks good?
I think these last couple of weeks he's looked better. I do. I think the first couple of weeks it was like, oh, this offense, I can't even stomach it. But I think Wilson, when they're letting him throw, he's looking good. I still think.
I'm not overly encouraged by these like games against the Texans that kind of get decided in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
like I don't know. I mean, and keep in mind, Penny had a really good game. That wasn't Russ. Anyway,
I still feel good about him. I feel a lot better than I did a couple of weeks ago. He's going to be rising on the big board for sure.
Okay. Mitch says last 2 weeks has been solid with a touchdown. I think he's talking about hockey. Tight end waivers are a wasteland. That's true.
As we were saying. Yep.
One Rock says Fields gets the Vikings dumpster fire defense next week. That's a fair point.
And as we talked about, the 74 yards on average after averaging 20 yards in his first 5, that Konami upside's huge. And the Vikings just gave up like 25 points to fucking Ben Roethlisberger. Like, you tell me Justin Fields can't have a decent day? So that if you lost Lamar, I'd rather have Fields than like Huntley. Even though I don't mind Huntley, I'd rather put Fields on in there. Definitely a viable stream.
I'm trying to decide if I would rather have Huntley than Fields. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Fields looks terrible to me, man.
I like Fields.
I know you do. You like Fields. You like Trey Lance, and so you're gonna stay dug in on those guys. Like, but what was that? It was like something like QBR. It was like the top 32 QBR. It might not have been QBR, but it was some stat, and it was like Fields was like 31st out of 32 in the league. 32.
As long as he's running
32 was Zach Wilson.
Ground, baby.
Zach Wilson was the only quarterback he was better than. David says, I need help with who do I flex? James Robinson, Darrell Williams, Christian Kirk, or Zach Ertz? So
this has got to be for next week. I think I go back to Robinson. As bad as he was, gets Houston. That's like the one time you can pound it. The other options are just so unappealing, in my opinion. I like
Darrell, but I'm still going with James Robinson.
Kirk does get Detroit though, so that's kind of like blow up potential. But I'm going James Robinson against Houston.
Darrell Williams has only had one dud game since CEH has been back. He's been totally serviceable in the other games, but I would also go with James Robinson. One Rock says I don't think Cam is startable anymore. Well, yeah, I don't think so either. He can get subbed for PJ Walker depending on the game situation or script.
Yeah, he's cuttable. No way.
Yep. He says the Dalvin owner in his league didn't start him and is going to miss the playoffs because of it.
Well, you deserve to miss the playoffs. If you don't start Dalvin, you don't deserve to be in.
There was the Dalvin owner in my league also didn't start him, but he was already the worst team in the league. So
how do you not start the guy?
I can tell you this: he must not have watched our live stream.
Yeah.
One Rock fantasy analysts like us, I guess, need to stop wish casting Javonte into a bell cow role. It's just not happening this season.
No, it's not. We don't. I mean, clearly,
we know it's not. We just wish it would.
Doesn't mean I'm not going to pray and hope for it every week. The good news is even on less than 40% of the carries, the guy still put up 21 fantasy points. Like, he's just that talented. And it does seem to me like he had a little bit of an edge in the red zone. I mean, they both ended up scoring 2 touchdowns, but Javonte got the first crack at the goal line early in the game. I do think Williams I'm going to be playing. I have him, and I'm not putting him on the bench at this point. He's just too talented to sit there. Am I wish casting? Sure. I wish it was happening. I know it's not. Again, 62% of the carries went to Melvin Gordon. Like we recognize that, and still we're going to clamor for the fact that Javonte deserves every touch he gets.
Just adding to the misery of my week, as I've told you. Yeah, I faced Josh Allen. Yeah, I faced Tyler Lockett. I also faced Javonte. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, Penny's usage wasn't out of nowhere with AP and Homer out. Plus, he was the most productive back the prior week. Pete said he was going to be used a lot, and he was.
Yeah.
Look at Pete Carroll keeping his word.
Yeah, very rare instance of him keeping his word. But yeah, I really like him moving forward.
All right, now I was talking about Eli Mitchell. Harrison says, what Raheem Mostert comes back next year. One Rock says no, he's likely played his last stab for the Niners.
Yeah.
Harrison says he's a solid back, though. Sure.
He is solid, but just gets hurt each and every week.
Johnny Lau got tuckered in the nuts yesterday. I hate losing to kickers.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. Brutal. Nothing worse than going down by a kicker. But, that's why they play the game. That's why we keep him
He's
in
the
there.
GOAT, though. He's the GOAT.
If there's a kicker you're going to have it happen to, it's got to be Tucker,
One Rock says it's frustrating to see Piron's usage on passing downs and 2-minute drill. It's not like he's a better pass catcher. It's not like he's a better pass catcher than Mixon. I just don't get it. Mixon can be game script dependent. I actually completely agree with you. I hate it when they just randomly are like, this guy's our third down back. And you're like, why? The other guy's just
any
good.
Better. Right, exactly. And there was a while where Mixon was the 3-down back. Like he
was a true workhorse.
Running like almost all the routes. And I don't know why or when they decided let's rest the guy, but here we are in a playoff like type of atmosphere. They took him out when they needed him most. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me, One Rock. I'm with you.
Evan Harrison says Mixon could easily be a 20 PPR average player. I agree with you. But
and
it would involve him being that 3-down back that we're talking about, though.
Right. These last few weeks, I mean, he had been with all the touchdowns he was getting, but he should be one of those guys that's just, you don't even think twice about he's going to get 25 touches every week. And I don't know why it's not. It does not make any sense. I know you're agreeing there, One Rock, too. It seemed like it was going to be that all year, and I don't know why it's not.
Yeah. Eat Powder says Craig sitting at running back 21, not too terrible of a call after all.
Seriously, right? Like top 24, RB2. Good call by Schefter.
One Rock says Jefferson is my rest of season wide receiver 1. Eventually, one of these what-if games will become reality. Let's not forget how close he was to 200-plus yards and 3 to 4 touchdowns against the Steelers.
Yeah,
I haven't forgotten.
These what-if games, the week before, he was averaging like 30 fantasy points for 3 straight weeks. It's not like it's been a what-if game for him. This guy has been going bananas and could have had yet another, as you're saying, 40-point day, but still had, 20? Like
he's amazing, and he's a top 4 to 5 guy at lowest rest of the season. I would still rather have Davonte than him rest of the year.
I'd probably rather have Davonte and Cooper Kupp, but I think Jefferson's my 3. And if you told me Thielen was done for the rest of the year, he certainly could. Like if I'm making a tier, he is in the tier with Adams and Kupp, no doubt about it. Probably number 5 or so on the rest of the season big board with those receivers.
I also think I like him at 3, like you said. If Hawkinson and Swift play, I don't think you can start him on Ross St. Brown. Well, you're not going to have to twist my arm to not start the guy,
no.
Believe me. But you're probably right.
If you have to start him in your playoffs, that's pretty sketchy. But I'd say a more realistic target share would be about 6 to 7. And I don't want that from the Lions like ever. But again, desperate times could call for desperate measures. If you squeaked in and you have nothing, he's going to be one of the very few waiver wire receivers. Is there anybody else, One Rock, that you're looking for out there that you might be more intrigued for as a wide receiver off the waivers?
Robert Moreno lost Elijah Moore to IR for the playoffs. Better add Sterling Shepard or Gabe Davis, or go back to the Bateman well. Go to the Bateman well.
It's between Gabe Davis and Bateman for me. Just because Bateman doesn't get it done with Lamar, like almost all that production came with Huntley. I'm very intrigued.
Lamar's hurt.
What's that?
Lamar's hurt.
I think he might be back as early as this week, though. It's a low ankle grade sprain. Like, it's not bad. If we got word that Sanders was going to miss multiple weeks, I think it'd be Gabe Davis. He just has that big play upside, very easy schedule for these Bills moving forward. It's just more of a gut feeling at this point, and I've been spurned by Bateman throughout the year, but I kind of like rolling those dice on Gabe Davis. If we knew Daniel Jones was back for Shepard, he's been so damn steady with Shepard too, but he didn't have that rapport with Glenn in his first week back. I'm going Gabe Davis, honestly, Robert.
I'm going back to the Bateman well. William says, is Rashad Penny worth number 1 waiver priority? Yeah, man. Half PPR. I have Echoler, Gibson, Sanders, and Michael Carter's my only other route. In my opinion, absolutely. You throw the kitchen sink to get him. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. He'll be the number 1 guy this week. Even if in your backfield, is he going to start for you? Probably not. But you're keeping somebody else from.
Do you want to go against him, though? Of course you don't.
Not at all.
Right. Troy says, who do I start next week? Pick 2. DK, Hollywood, Mike Williams, Jarvis. Man, all these guys. What do you think?
They're all so boom busty, Troy. Is it full PPR? Full PPR Landry does get a little bit of an uptick, but I'm going to go off the gun to my head. I'm not playing DK. He's my least favorite of all these options.
Isn't that nuts that he's 4th on this list?
Yeah. It does come down to, does Keenan play on Thursday? If not, then Mike Williams would probably be at the top of this list. If so, I don't trust Mike Williams at all. So I'm likely going to go Hollywood and Jarvis. But Thursday night, we'll know more, Troy, and obviously we'll be live 6:45 p.m. I like that earlier start, even though we still were right up to the wire with questions. But we'll be live 6:45 on Thursday. We'll have more information to help you answer this. But the short answer is it's not DK at this point, not DK at all.
William says, is Taysom Hill worth a waiver claim? I have Josh Allen. I'm worried that doesn't play. In my opinion, absolutely he's worth a waiver claim.
Yeah, if you need a backup, absolutely. Yeah, over 20 fantasy points in back-to-back weeks, even though it didn't look pretty, it just gets done. It gets done each and every week.
And then he says, who to flex next week? Sanders, Michael Carter, or Devontae Parker, half-point PPR?
I don't know the matchups, Will, off the top of my head. Tomorrow's the ranking show. Tomorrow's waiver wire show. Wednesday's the rankings. I'll know more by tomorrow. I usually set my rankings tonight or tomorrow, so I can give you a better answer. I don't know who each play. I don't think it's Michael Carter against a Dolphins defense that's just swallowing opponents these days. It might be Devontae Parker against the Jets, unless I really like Sanders' matchup. Do you know who the Eagles play by any chance this week? I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's Washington, which is like a mediocre matchup. I'm kind of liking Parker there.
Eat Powder says, only 3 likes? Guess the pack is thinning after not making the dance. Come on, Pack, where's the love?
Come on.
We actually have like 35, but like I think we should have more.
Yeah. Come on. Get them on up, Wolfpack. 3 likes would have been embarrassing, but still, more likes than that. Thank you, Eat Powder, for calling the troops out. Such an easy, free way to support the site. But again, also another way, help us get to that 2K goal, baby. If you're on Facebook, come join us on YouTube too. Share us out with people that might be out of your league and you don't have to worry about facing. Help us get to that 2K goal, Wolfpack. It'd be so appreciated.
Toon said got destroyed in the 1 win in league.
Hate to hear it, Toons. You're such a legend. Last year, I remember it was like first place in all your leagues. Like this year just didn't pan out quite as well. But hopefully you're still in a couple and still alive and ready to take those down.
We got about 5 minutes till kickoff, Wolf. Actually, this might be why don't you just fly through the rest? Because I think this is actually 8:15 kickoff.
Oh, yeah. So we better, just in case there's any questions in here. And it looks like there is shit. So got the first round bye despite those zeros. Man, DJ Johnson, well done there. 13-1 and 12-2. My bad, Seamus. Didn't mean to insult you with these 11-win, 10-win teams. 12-2, 13-1. Good fucking Lord. What a beast you are. Sorry, Tunes. Indeed. James Conner or Sony Michel from Rex. I wish I saw this. I wonder if you're still with us, Rex. I would have gone James Conner if you still have time to make a move. I don't know if it kicked off or not already, but I do like James Conner more than Sony Michel myself. Got a bye, finishing in second. Only pay about 25 points in the league. League I didn't prepare for at all. Yes, interesting. Indeed. 38-34 from the Cards. Wow, big shootout game, says Dan Jennings. Who's winning the game? Says our good friend Todd Exotic. We both are very much in agreement with the Cards, and we think it's going to be pretty handedly. I have Van Jefferson and Sony. He has OBJ and Arizona defense. You're up by 16. Should be solid. Yeah, with that lead, and yeah, I think you're in a good shape. Again, OBJ is one of the few players that could suddenly go for 40 and just ruin your day. But I don't see that happening, Tunes. So I think you're pretty good. I give you like a 89% chance. Josh Simkovich. Need Kyler and Prater to score 41 and get the bye. Wish me luck. Good luck. Not without the wrong possibility. That's going to take like a 30-point day from Kyler, and that's certainly possible, especially with no Jalen Ramsey. But I would say you got a 20% chance of getting that, Josh. But we'll see. Best of luck. I hope it hits it for you. Need Hopkins and Matt Gay to score 50. Stick a fork in my season. Opponent had scored 150. Damn, Todd. Probably likely that your season's over, but hey, you never say never. I had Dalvin Cook at me 39. Hopkins is a guy that could get 3 touchdowns. You just never know. Wasn't exactly wrong on Jeff. Yeah, seriously. No more rope. He's done. Definitely done. Mother Tucker to whoever lost death by Tucker. Definitely indeed. I think Lockett can be set and forget receiver in the playoffs. I don't know about that. Lockett. I was thinking Mclaren for some reason. Yes, Lockett 100% set and forget Michael Schneider. No doubt about it. And Eagles play well. So, yeah, we should have asked our Eagle correspondent here, Denny Jennings. Yes, 100%. Finished 2nd, 4th, 7th, and 11th in my 4 leagues. So fantasy can be fun for at least another week. So, yeah, you got a couple of leagues at least that you're alive for, Tunes. Let's take them down. Let's take them down, buddy. Wolfpack, thank you so much on your way out. If you haven't already hit that thumbs up, please consider doing so. And especially please consider subscribing, helping us grow. so you don't miss any of our episode drops Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We got some big merch stuff coming out soon. I don't want to release it till it's officially launched, but we're going to have some gear for your Christmas time, for your celebratory titles, or to punish your last place loser. So keep your eyes peeled for these great things that will be coming out in the near future. I'm the Wolf.
I'm the Truth.
The world full of fantasy sheep, guys. Be the Wolf. Later, guys.
Later.